This is Mick Foley.
Former WWE superstar Horns over here.
This is Dave LaGreca from Bustin' Open.
I am WWF's longest reigning light heavyweight champion, Gilbert, and you are now
somewhere in the ring.
Somewhere in the ring.
Somewhere in the ring.
Somewhere in the ring. Have a nice day.
Going great. I'm Andrew Sanford. This is Somewhere in the Ring, a podcast where we talk about pro wrestling. And by we, I mean just me. Usually Ryan Sprague, my wonderful co-host, is here with me. But today I was going to be doing a little interview that unfortunately is not happening. We'll hopefully get that in the near future. I don't want to say with who, just in case I spoil anything, because maybe they can't come. But for now, it's me. And we're going to talk about some wrestling. We were going to talk about a triple threat match between Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch, and Asuka from the 2019 Hell in a Cell. And look, if you get a chance, go check that match out because it's pretty fantastic. It was a good time. I enjoyed it. This is Somewhere in the Ring. How are you? How is your wrestling watching going? Are you watching AEW? Or are you watching NXT? Are you going some indie shows? I've been trying to. I'm in Jersey City. There's been some GCW shows here the last couple of months, and I'm trying to get into some of those. It's a good time for pro wrestling. It really is. It's to the point where I was talking with my boss at pajiba.com earlier today. If you are familiar, Pajiba, you should check it out. It's a great site. And for more reasons than just the fact that I'm slinging out hot takes there Monday through Friday. There's some great writers there, but my boss, not a wrestling fan per se, starting to feel some FOMO, starting to feel some he's wanting to get back into wrestling because so the Smashing Machine trailer came out this morning for our buddy Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson because the man needed a win, and it looks great. It looks pretty rad. It's directed by one of the Safdie brothers. He plays Mark Kerr, who is a UFC fighter, and they've got him in these prosthetics that are really impressive looking and not like distracting or anything like that. He just looks great, and he's acting in a way that feels more akin to his older, like his earlier roles. Like there were movies like Scorpion King and The Rundown where The Rock was like definitely trying some things, definitely showing off that sense of humor, definitely showing that he had the chops to act amongst, the Sean William Scotts and Rosario Dawsons of Hollywood, the Brendan Frasers. Yeah, I feel like he always says we're pronouncing his name wrong. Fraser? The Brendan Fraser? It's not Fraser. I know that much. Anyway, the Rachel Weisz's, Arnold Vosloo's, The Rock could stand toe-to-toe with the best of them. But the movies where he really showed off more of what he was capable of were things like Be Cool, where he played a hitman, a hitman shakedown guy, something like that, who was a member of the LGBTQ plus community. And he was very funny in that role, saying, "You ain't woman enough to take my man." Really stretched himself. No pun intended. Then there was, I feel like the one that people always say scared him off of doing sillier things, trying some more acting, was Southland Tales, which was, I believe, the second feature from Richard Kelly. Oh, I feel terrible misremembering his name, but the guy who wrote and directed Donnie Darko did a follow-up that had, again, I think, Sean William Scott, Sarah Michelle Gellar, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So three people with three names. Kevin Smith was in there. That movie is a movie I have not seen in 20 years. And I remember even at the time being like, I think this is a little too weird even for me. And I like my weird stuff. But so Smashing Machine. And the Smashing Machine trailer, he's acting. He's back to the kind of like, I wouldn't say he's disappearing. He's getting real close though, I think he really, it's the most unlike himself I have seen him on screen in quite some time. So it's very exciting. I'm excited for The Rock. I'm excited for that trailer. I'm excited for him to get some attention on himself. that doesn't involve missing WrestleMania, because that's, I think rightfully so, all that people have been able to talk about in regard to him in the last couple of weeks. Speaking of WrestleMania, we are now in a post WrestleMania world. And I don't know if you saw last week, yo, but Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown were pretty fantastic. Surprisingly, simply because it is 3 hours long, SmackDown was the more successful show, I felt. I am always of the mind that, and I'm always like I originated it. The shows after WrestleMania should be important. They should be exciting. They should be fun, and big things should happen. Big swings. DX was formed the night after WrestleMania. Other stuff, I'm sure. That's just the first one that comes to my mind. What is yours? What is your Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania? Something huge happened, and you were like, "Oh, and you'll never forget it." For me, the formation of DX. Shawn Michaels the reformation, the rebooting, if you will, of DX, where Shawn Michaels was removed from the group, and we first saw, our friend buddy X-Pac, our friends Billy Gunn and Road Dogg Jesse James, the New Age Outlaws. That was a huge deal. And something kind of similar happened in this last week's Raw. We had who was it? Braun Breaker. Sorry, I'm going to be real upfront with you guys. I did not expect to do this show by myself today, and I am currently texting with my wife, who is also in the house, because there's construction going on and our kids are napping. So let me fire off this text real quick. I am indeed recording already. Solo. There we go. Boom. Sent. Monday Night Raw. There's a big formation of a new group. Some new Heyman guys. We saw the fallout of Paul Heyman joining forces with Seth Rollins. Seth friggin' Rollins. I feel like it doesn't say that on the website anymore. I remember that being a deal when they were like, "Oh, no longer Seth freaking Rollins." They got rid of the freaking. I as with a lot of things in WWE, I think I've just gotten used to it over time. I like, he is Seth freaking Rollins to me, and I really did not care for that at first. But here we are. I'm on the other side, and I'm like, why not? That's his Nom de Plume. No, Nom de Plume's a fake name. Regardless, Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman brought another person into their group, and that person was Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker, who is spearing people like someone is hurling him at them at this point. It is the wildest thing I have ever seen, to see Braun Breaker deliver the kind of spears that he's delivering. He nailed Roman Reigns out of nowhere last Monday, and was basically announced as like the next member of the group, the new Paul Heyman guy. And they keep referencing that there will be a third man. More on that in a second, because also last Monday, like I said, we saw some of the fallout. We saw John Cena come out and get RKO'd by Randall Kenneth Orton. It was something that I remember significantly. Not significantly. I definitely liked seeing John Cena against Randy Orton when they were like both. I don't even want to say in their prime, because Randy Orton is pretty incredible right now. But I think it's fair to say their prime. When they were both wrestling more consistently and main eventing like every pay-per-view against each other when they were still pay-per-views. I liked their feud. And I think it's fun that we never got to see a face Randy Orton against a heel John Cena. And now that's what we're getting. And I've been kind of hoping for that. I mentioned it on this podcast before. I have been excited about the prospect of those two facing off once again, and now it looks like that's what we're going to get. So I'm pretty excited. I want Randy Orton to be able to get out everything that he can against Cena, to kind of be a perfect babyface foil for Cena, because it's going to be that much more upsetting when Cena wins, which is really great. But Orton just came out of nowhere and hit him with an RKO to leave things for the next Raw. We also last week saw Becky Lynch turn on Lyra Valkyria after they lost the women's tag titles to Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. It was kind of funny. The whole night, Yeah, Michael Cole was like, "Oh, they keep saying that they lost they lost them so they could be 4-time champions." And he kept saying it, and I have to get to a point like Michael Cole. I love Michael Cole. I have made that very clear on this podcast. He is starting to telegraph some things with how much he wants to set things up. But regardless, and that's the tough middle ground with pro wrestling anyway. You are always kind of like wanting to tease things. It's just like with screenwriting. It's just like with anything else where you want to tease things so things don't feel completely out of left field, but there is also a sense of you don't want to spoil things either. So Michael Cole really kind of set up hard that Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez were going to win those belts. And they did, and it was still pretty rad. Like, it was still fun to watch. And this is going to sound even crazier given everything that I've said on this podcast. I'm back on board for Judgment Day. Like, really enjoying what's going on with Judgment Day. This kind of like kicking Finn Balor out. Well, not kicking him out. He's still there, but like they're leading it instead of him, like slowly but surely giving him a reason to not want to be a part of that group anymore. And that is very fun. Especially with my man's Carlito. Hashtag free Carlito. Free Carlito. So, moving on to SmackDown. And something that I heard pretty much across the board was that people wished the main match in this SmackDown was at WrestleMania. And I don't disagree. It would have been awesome. It was a triple threat TLC tag match between the Motor City Machine Guns. Just completely had a brain fart. Motor City Machine Guns, the Street Profits, and DIY. It was a TLC match, and it was incredible. There is a SmackDown TLC match that often gets cited as amazing. It was. I forget how the teams were broken up, but I know that I think the Dudleys were in there, and maybe Benoit and Angle were a team, and then Jericho and somebody else. But this was one of the better TLC matches I've ever seen. It was really fun. The Street Profits absolutely crushed, and SmackDown the entire last hour was commercial free. So it had kind of a pay-per-view feel to it. It had like a pay-per-view addendum, a coda, if you will, like an afterword of oh, here's like a kind of pay-per-view thing. And it wasn't just that either. There was a singles match right beforehand, of which I'm kind of forgetting which one it was exactly right now. I think it was a #1 contender for the U.S. title. Was that what it was? Because they're setting up Jacob Fatu's got that new belt, and they were having some people face off to see who would face him. Cannot remember for the life of me. Y'all, I'm going in cold. Again, did not expect to be doing a SmackDown and 2 Raws recap today, but that's what we're going with. But I remember being excited. It was LA Knight, Jacob Fatu, and some other folks that are getting into the mix. We did have some more Cena and Randy Orton action that night, where we had Randy Orton laying some really nice promos against John Cena, parent shaming him, as John Cena pointed out at one point, which was very funny and pretty personal, because John Cena has made it clear that he does not want kids, publicly. And it was fun to have Orton kind of use that against him as a face to try to bring him back. He's like, oh, you got to be a father, you got to grow up. It was really, but it's Orton just crushing, man. It is Orton. I don't know if there is a world where we do this beforehand, where they have an opportunity to be face Orton and heel Cena against each other. But I'm glad we have it. It would have been fun to see before, but now that we're getting it, it's pretty great. I'm glad that they're kicking it off. I think they got to save Cena against Punk. I wonder who do you guys think takes the belt off of Cena this year? Because he keeps saying that I'm going home with it. Oh, man, is Punk going to take it? Think about this. One of the biggest storylines out of Punk's WWE career before, aside from the pipe bomb, is him which was in the same program, if I remember correctly, him beating Cena and blowing that kiss and leaving with the WWE title like he was never coming back. What a reversal if CM Punk is the one that is just like, you are not taking that belt anywhere. This is my company. This is me. Y'all, that's got to be what they're building towards. It's got to be, right? It's the only thing that makes sense. Not the only thing, but if they are trying to do like a bizarro Cena's greatest hits kind of a situation, I think it makes a lot of sense. And it could be a fun little twist on one of the biggest moments in Punk's career and in the kind of like history of the WWE. That's like I've had this conversation with my older brother before, where that's kind of the last bits of the like kayfabe really working. I talked about this on my TikTok recently. If you want to go find me on TikTok, I think it's like Sanford minus Son. If you search Andrew Sanford on TikTok, you'll find me pretty quick. I am very much a supporter of kayfabe being mostly done away with, because I think it allows for more people to get into professional wrestling. Because they can take it a little bit more seriously. It's been decades now that people have known that wrestling is staged. Yes, they would say fake, and guys would get like adversarial about that and all these kind of things. But they're just calling out the fact that it's like, oh, it's not real. And they would face stern, angry disagreement with wrestlers being like, no, how dare you say what I'm doing isn't real? Is this not real? I'm like hitting them, and it's like, no. Like, I get the confusion of words or whatever, but the angry rejection, it's like, no, people just don't believe that somebody broke their arm, or like things like that, the things that they would lean into, this reality of it. And for a long time, that was a good way to sell professional wrestling and the territories, all that kind of stuff, because it heightened the reality to it. It made people more invested. Now, I mean, it's been like a slow trade-off, but people are not dumb. Like, they're just not stupid, man. And wrestlers have been giving more interviews as themselves. I think Undertaker is really doing like interviews just as him is kind of the last domino to fall in that regard, because at that point, like, I was talking to my in-laws, and that was the only wrestler they had a point of reference for, really, that I had brought up. And I'm like, well, now he talks as Mark Calloway. Like, he's just himself after decades of guarding who he is and what he was about. So that last domino fell, but I think that's a good thing, because now people can be like, oh, now that I see how the sausage is made, it's impressive. Pro wrestlers are impressive as athletes, as performers, as what they do. So when you allow people behind the curtain a little bit more, significantly more, it lets people be a little bit more invested. They see how hard it is. They're not just like, they don't assume you're trying to treat them like a rube. This ain't the carnival days no more. You don't have to trick folks to get them to watch your product. So I think that's very interesting. And because of that, I think one of the last significant kayfabe, is this real, is this not moments, was CM Punk leaving with the belts. And my older brother was working a comic convention. He was at a panel in San Diego Comic-Con when Punk crashed the panel. And it felt real, because people didn't know what was going on with his contract. People didn't know, like, obviously, like, that stuff's great. I do not think anything like that is possible anymore. But I liked that, and now I'm happy that we're on the other side of it. And now, still within storyline, they could reference that. I didn't even think about that until now. Cena constantly doing the I'm taking this belt home with me. I am the last WWE champion. How incredible. Long-term storytelling wise, over a decade later, would it be for a reformed CM Punk to be like, that belt stays here? Very cool. Looking forward to it. Maybe that won't be what happens, but that's where my money's at currently. My next prediction, something that Ryan and I were talking about this morning, I think is a little bit more foreseeable in a very, very good way. So this last night's Monday Night Raw, if you're listening to this on Wednesday, the most recent Monday Night Raw, kicked off with Seth Rollins in one of the sickest outfits I think he has ever worn. There's this idea that he is often dressed very flamboyantly in a way that I think like makes him look ridiculous intentionally. I think he's trying to get under people's skin. Make them think like, oh yeah, this guy looking like a Red Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is the one who beat you, looking like somebody out of a P Diddy video from 1998. That's what's going to take you down. That's embarrassing. It's why I was always a fan of the Bane voice sounding like this, Gotham, back your city. Like I always loved that because I'm like, ooh, Bane. His whole thing is that he beats Batman really bad. How much more embarrassing is it to get beaten when you're talking like this, and the guy that beats you is like, ah, hello, greetings. Like it's, I think it makes a lot of sense. So I love Seth Rollins' outfits, but man, he had a long coat on for this newest episode that looked fantastic, and he had this kind of white flowing blouse on underneath that had like a cool, it's nothing I could pull off in the slightest, but he looked great. And he was out there with Braun Breaker and Paul Heyman, and who should interrupt them but one Samuel Zayn. Sami Zayn came out and they had a bit of a heart to heart. It was really fun. It's like you can always tell when wrestlers are more like comfortable promoing each other if they're close, if they're together. Like it's pretty rad. So these guys were putting on a good promo, and Rollins is like, look, before I forget, Zelina Vega won the United States title on SmackDown. That was a big moment. Sorry that I forgot to bring that up. I tried to do a nice transition there, but I didn't want to ignore that. That was a great match. I love the work that Chelsea Green is doing. I love the work that Zelina Vega is doing. And I'm excited that they put the belt on her. It's just cool. It's very fun. So Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn arguing. Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman are like, look, man, how about you just go to SmackDown? And this won't be a problem. We can get you traded to SmackDown right now. SmackDown, which just got Faxium. Another thing that I neglected to mention. They look red. He's like, go to SmackDown and this won't be an issue because Sammy's like, you're not doing this right. This is bad. How is this not like the Bloodline, which was pretty great? He's like, Paul Heyman's right there. And it's about to get more like the Bloodline, I think. So Sammy left with his like ultimatum. They're like, either go and have it be easy or stay and we will make your life hell. The rest of the night is going on. We get Rhea Ripley against Roxanne Perez in a pretty fantastic match that ended with Julia helping Perez, like basically getting Perez disqualified, and then Io Sky coming out and helping Rhea Ripley. Lots of fun crossover going on there. We're seeing a lot more of NXT bleed into the other shows, and I wonder, there is a storyline in WWE 2K25 for the My Rise gameplay where you are like part of it. There's an NXT mutiny, and like NXT is trying to take over WWE. It's pretty fun. And I wonder if they're starting to get towards some stuff like that, but we'll see. I doubt they would like knock off their own thing, but it would be fun. Many times we've seen wrestling storylines that have been done in real life reflected in the games. It would be kind of fun to see the games reflected in real life. We'll see if that happens though. So that was going on, and then we had Becky Lynch come out and promo Lyra Valkyria and talking about and Becky Lynch revealing that she's the one that attacked Bayley to take her out of the match to begin with. So she's doing a full-on heel turn. Becky Lynch doing a heel turn on Monday Night Raw, a show that she shares with somebody she's very close to. More on that in a second. And a completely unrelated segue, right? What? Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins come back out later. And Sammy's just like, look, man, not doing this. I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to stop you. I'm here to stop all of this. I said Braun Breaker wrestled Sami Zayn and beat the hell out of him. Holy cow. Again, doing those flying torpedo spears, hitting Sami a bunch. He speared him again and again and again and again and again. It was devastating. And then, after they had got Sami down, and like, Jamie Noble and the other producers and refs and stuff are out there trying to stop them, Seth Rollins just out of nowhere does one of the fiercest curb stomps I have seen him do. Like Sammy, either like he slipped a little and Sammy maybe went down too hard, or Sammy like maybe he just sold it really well. It looked great though. It looked devastating. And he just kind of left him in the ring, and then it was Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman, and Braun Breaker standing there triumphantly. Now, they have teased that there will be another member of their group, another man, and who better than Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins' partner in real life. Why not bring that into the fold? It could be a fun play on words. Becky Lynch, we know, the man, without ever having to beat Ric Flair for it, because that was a ridiculous thing for him to say. Becky Lynch teaming up with Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, and Paul Heyman would be pretty fantastic. And it would play to this kind of, again, it would be very similar to the Bloodline, except for the fact that, you know, Braun Breaker is not related to anybody, but who knows? Maybe they could bring Scott Steiner on there too as a manager. Or no, I don't think he can wrestle anymore. I saw an interview the other day where he was talking about how like he still doesn't have a ton of feeling in like his left foot. Like when he puts on his shoe, he has to make sure like his toes are pointed forward so they don't like roll back under his foot, because he cannot feel them because of an injury that he wrestled through decades ago. So he probably won't be getting into the ring. But if they are going to do something like this, I think they have a pretty strong group together. And I think it would be really fun to see how that plays out, to have Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins be this kind of like anointed power couple. It also would probably be more enticing for them as human beings. They'd get to travel together more. They'd get to work more directly. They have a family now, so they could probably bring their kid with them. Do they have 2 kids? I think they only have 1. But I feel like it would just make a lot of sense for all involved. And everybody loves Becky Lynch, and the response to her heel turn was pretty fantastic. So there are options. There's a lot going on. I feel like this has to be the way they go. I could be wrong. I just can't. Well, Ryan was asking me earlier who I thought the third person was going to be, and I was like, maybe like Obafemi, somebody from NXT that they would want to push. But he's also like dominating NXT right now, so why move him? You know. But I think there are a lot of options out there. Like they kind of had their pick of the litter. With maybe like, you know, they could have somebody like Drew McIntyre who could be fighting for control of the group or something along those lines. There are options. There are things that they could do. I'm not going to have anybody wrestling Pat McAfee because that's what Gunther is going to be doing. I really hope that's a good match for his sake, for both their sakes. I actually don't mind when McAfee wrestled Vince McMahon a few years ago. I remember that being like a weird match for a lot of reasons. But he's not terrible. He's a physical guy. He can move around the ring as long as he's taking bumps. But Gunther is just so good. It's like another having AJ Styles wrestle Jake Paul or Logan Paul kind of moment. Logan Paul, who called out Jey Uso last night, new World Heavyweight Champ. Jey Uso laid him out with a kick. Here's the thing. I like that booking quite a bit. Just on a very base level, you have someone you have the 2 people who arguably get the most heat in the company. You have one that's getting good heat and one that's getting bad heat. Put them against each other. That's how you blow the roof off the place. The fans are dictating it in a way that makes a lot of sense. Logan Paul should be able to challenge for that title because he just beat AJ Styles. They've been handling his character, his persona in a way that it makes sense that he gets to do that. So I just don't have a problem with it. Ryan and I have talked about like our outside feelings about Logan Paul before, but we just try to check that stuff at the door more so now than before, maybe. But check that stuff at the door and just kind of stand back and look at it objectively. And Logan Paul annoys me, so I think he would be a great challenger to Jey Uso. Just makes a lot of sense. They both do some high flying stuff that could be fun. And I like that Jay kind of yelled at him that he was a YouTuber. Like, I thought that worked really well. It was a good kickoff. I'm excited to see where that goes. I wish I could remember who was going to be challenging Jacob Fatu aside from LA Knight, and I just cannot. Drew McIntyre, maybe. I think Drew McIntyre was in there because I was kind of surprised by that. And then a fourth person who I can't remember. But there are people out there that want that belt. There are people out there that want those belts. And they will get them, maybe. Look, I think that's a good place to cut this off. We've had some good Raws. We've had some good SmackDowns. The post-WrestleMania kickoff has started, and I'm keeping an open mind and looking forward to everything on the table. And go check out the trailer for the Smashing Machine. I think it looks good. Could be The Rock's Oscar play. It's certainly what seems like that's what he's trying for. So as always, you can find Ryan. Go check out his podcast, Somewhere in the Skies, where he's talking about UFOs. You can find head to Patreon, patreon.com/somewhereinthering, and throw us a couple bucks and look at some of the match commentaries and other fun things that we have there. Please, 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 if you are listening here, if you have migrated over from YouTube, welcome. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, subscribe, review, do all that stuff on iTunes as well, please. It helps us significantly. You can find my work all over the place. Like I had mentioned before, pajiba.com. I have a comedic short film called Chemistry Test that you can watch on YouTube. Just type in Chemistry Test short, and it's one of the first ones that comes up. You can see my short horror film, Pay the Tithe, on Vimeo. Ryan will have links to all these things in the show notes. And if you are in the New York City area and you love Star Wars or like having some adult beverages and having a good time, I wrote a Shakespearean version of A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back that will be going on at the Rat NYC in Brooklyn, Dumbo, this weekend. I will be performing in Friday night show as Han Solo. We do stage ratings where we play drinking games with the audience. It'll be a lot of fun, and you should be there because it's a blast. And we're going to have a good time and get real silly. So Ryan will throw that in there too, but just go to theratnyc.com. And all the ticket information is laid bare for you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I got to ring a bell, so let me see. On this show, we always ring a bell to get out of here. I'm in the kitchen, so I've got these two knives. Ready? Pretty good. Yeah, knife. Second knife. Thanks for hanging out with me today.